News about the circumstances surrounding her death, including why Kopechne's body was discovered in the back seat area of the car and why another woman's purse was also recovered from that car. I recently sat down with Georgetta Potoski, Mary Jo's cousin and close confidant, and the author of the book, Our Mary Jo. What goes through your mind reliving this story and watching it on the big screen?
It was very powerful. It was very emotional, and it was very sad. But we did like the movie. We thought they did a masterful job with it. I thought Jason Clarke you really thought you were watching Ted Kennedy, and Kate Mara was darling and sweet. And I think it captured Mary Jo's personality. And I think they find, at the same time, they walked a fine line with some of the scenes so that not to imply the wrong thing. And we appreciate that because Mary Jo was a woman full of integrity and intelligence and ambition. And we still miss her to this day in our family.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. She was from an area not far from where I live. And I can imagine that the loss is still so enormous for you to this day. I know you have a lot of questions about Ted Kennedy's role in all of this and just what they were even doing in that car together in the first place, right?
Well, when we first heard that he said that he was taking her to the ferry to catch the last ferry, well, I believed that because Mary Jo would not have stayed overnight on the island. She would have wanted to go home. And so it seemed perfectly natural for us that they would be trying to catch the last ferry. And having lived in New England, we know that most ferry lines stop at midnight.
That's right.
So when he said they left the cottage at 11:15 and were going to catch the last ferry, that made sense to us, at least at the time that this was all happening.
Yeah, you know, when you watch the movie and you see those behind-the-scenes machinations of the Kennedy clan getting together, really focused on trying to save Ted Kennedy's integrity, trying to save the Kennedy name and all of that.
We tell the truth, or at least our version of it. And it ends with an appeal to the voters, to the people that elected me. We need to remind them that this family perseveres, that we don't back down from a fight, that we don't get backed into a corner. We have a true compass and we follow it.
I can imagine that you're just sitting there wondering, you know, what about Mary Jo?
That was hard to watch, but not unknown to most people who lived through the Kennedy era. Most politicians have those types of personal family meetings to negotiate strategy, and but it was a little hard. We kept thinking that he would make a right decision, and he had plenty of chances to do that. He just didn't do it.
There's a suggestion that she didn't drown, that she suffocated, and that she was alive for a long time in that car. I wonder what you think about that.
That's one of the hardest things we had to accept. Her parents in particular thought that she had died instantly. And a few years after she died, they went up there and spoke with John Ferrer, the scuba diver, and he told them she could have lived up to 3 hours in the air bubble in the car, and it was like they had lost her all over again. Her father in particular just grieved. It was awful. It was awful.
I can imagine. You know, in terms of the movie, there's some discussion now that there was an effort to suppress it, that some supporters of the family didn't want it to come out. Does that surprise you?
Well, yeah, there's always been a lot of suppression of books and stories, and this is the first time almost 50 years that the movie is being made. And when we saw the film, the scenes that they had photographed were just like the scenes that had been running through our heads for 50 years. So they did a great job.
Do you remember, you know, learning this news? It must have been such an enormous shock, obviously, for you and your family. Were you even aware that she was out there that night?
No, I was not. My husband was in the Navy and we were living in North Kingston, Rhode Island. And it was a Sunday morning that the phone rang and I was folding diapers. I had 3 little girls. And Bill, my husband, took the phone call and I heard him say, "Mary Jo, that's too bad." and I knew she was dead. And he came in the room and he said, Mary Jo has died in a swimming accident in Massachusetts. I said, what happened? He said, I don't know. No one knew actually what had happened for the whole week that the funeral was taking place. The Kopechnes, Mary Jo's mother and father, had a very brief discussion with the Kennedy people that said more or less, if you just calm down and take it easy, and we'll meet afterwards and we'll tell you everything about what happened. So they were destroyed anyway, and they were not in any position to have any long, complicated conversations. So we just got through the wake and the funeral and the burial the best way we could, and then we waited.
Georgetta, thank you very much for joining us. I'm glad that you and your family feel that this portrayal of her is closer to the Mary Jo that you knew. And I thank you very much for sharing your story with us tonight.
Certainly.
Our thanks to Georgetta. Mary Jo's family is working to keep her legacy alive. You can find out more by going to Facebook and searching for the Mary Jo Kopechne Scholarship page.